I have now sat in this technical room all day, and I have to say the only word I have heard more than Magento is the word Hyva. So we're about to find out all about it from the technical director and the founder. He's also on the Magento Association Board of Directors. I am delighted and thrilled and honoured to introduce my friend Willem Wigman.
Am I? Yeah, I am on. Thank you. Let's get started then. I think that would, slide into the slides. It's not your fault, but technically I'm not the technical director because Vinay Kopp, who everyone knows is our technical director. I'm more the director of everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about how we think Hyva delivers developer happiness and the ways that we try to accomplish that. So that's called the Hyva Toolbox. First off, what's up with the name? So we are based in the Netherlands. I am Dutch. The Netherlands is the country where it rains 8 months a year. Finland is a little bit higher up in Europe, which is the country where it snows 8 months a year. I've had the privilege to live there for 4 years, and one of my favorite words is Hyva, which means good, desirable, and trustworthy. And that's really at the core of the soul of the company. We try to do good. We try to make people happy. Make their working lives a little bit more sunny. So Hyva Teams itself is more than a team. It's what's in the name. But we started building a team, and with the team came a lot of tooling to make developers' lives easier. We built a community. Within our own Slack alone, we have over 2,000 developers. And we're building an ecosystem because we understood if you swap out a piece of technology, you need to have the support of a whole ecosystem to carry the team. So I would almost say building the team was 10% of the work. Building the ecosystem was the rest of the work. So that's what it entails, but it soon becomes also a couple of extra products. I'll talk about one a bit more later. So what we offer is developer happiness. One of our slogans, or our current slogan, is e-commerce made happy. Starting from the developer to the product manager to the agency owner and to the merchant and extension developers, we make everyone's lives a little bit more enjoyable. All of the aspects that I mentioned make, I can also read here, that looks a little bit more. So all of those aspects we think contributes to developer happiness, and making people happy is the main thing that we care about. It starts with our employees, then our customers, and the end users. So what do we think contributes to developer happiness? So reduced complexity is one of the biggest pillars. We've seen plenty of complexity for a lifetime with the Luma front end, and I would argue the new front end is also complex. So we removed everything that is Luma. We still use the traditional front end engine, so to say, so it's all PHP based. But we replaced all of the technology, all the JavaScript, all the CSS, all of that complex pile of scripts. We cut out and replaced it with just one JavaScript library, just one styling framework. So no longer you have to deal with dependencies of require.js, knockout, jQuery, underscore, everything we all love to not use anymore. We replaced it with simplicity. The complex Luma frontend became something that's still semantic HTML, Alpine.js, which just has 8 to 10 directives that you need to learn. The rest is native JavaScript, so anyone proficient in native JavaScript picks this up rather quickly. And we use a lot of native browser behavior, because why ship a 1 megabyte validation library to validate the email field while your browser can do that out of the box, and you save all that data that you need to ship first. And we believe semantic HTML it's in the core of a web page. Like, it's semantic HTML. You can pretend to build a page with JavaScript, but it's just more natural to ship HTML to the browser. It's easier to read, it's more performant, and it's accessible out of the box because the browser takes care of all the functionalities. Form validation through the browser is automatically translated into different languages. It's automatically accessible with keyboards, etc. So you don't need an extra library for accessibility. Your browser does it. We don't compile HTML, JavaScript. It's not needed for performance because we already have maximum performance, and it has the added benefit that you can actually read the code in the browser. And for me, that's nostalgic because I learned to code by looking at the code of websites when I was 13 years old. I would look at the source code and I would understand it and then copy things, and that's how I learned. Today, if you look at a JavaScript built website, all you see is code. One line of compiled JavaScript, and you can't make any sense out of that unless you add tooling, which is complex. So for junior developers, I strongly believe semantic website without all of the minification, compilation, is just easier to learn. So that should make it more accessible to junior developers. It's also easier to debug, and that I already said. We add a lot of tooling into Hyva to allow our users to build custom validations, modals. We have different tooling to add and remove cookies, etc. What you're used to having with Luma as well. So we built our own implementation of that. And then something that we really embraced is view models, which was the directive of Magento to stop using helpers. They are deprecated. You should use view models instead. That will never happen in the core code of Magento probably. It will never be refactored, but everything that we wrote uses view models first. So that makes it a lot more composable to pull in functionalities from PHP classes instead of just creating one God helper class that does a lot of things. So we have boilerplate code to create product sliders with only using XML. You can create dialogues with just adding this one Alpine component, which is called Hyva model, which you can extend with extra parameters and yes and no, cancel options, etc. So that's a whole library that we built on top of Alpine. Validation, where we kind of try to stay close to how the traditional Magento frontend did validation. We use the same data validate, for example, to pass in parameters to validation. And those are very easy to extend with your own validations. And we have extra tooling that we built. For example, if you add any content to the CMS in the CMS block, you can automatically have all the classes used there be compiled into the page in Tailwind, which is something we invented and implemented, and I haven't seen anyone else do that in the Tailwind ecosystem. It's super powerful because Tailwind has all of these libraries where you can copy and paste pre-designed elements, and you can just take those, paste them into the admin, and then in the front end, all of the styling is just included and works. So it's super powerful. We have icon view models that are inline SVGs. You can use them from the CMS or from template files. Widgets, I will talk more about that in a second. And we're constantly building out as we see what our customers need, how we can help them to build even more cool stuff. We try to build more and more of these things to make building custom teams more enjoyable. So Hyva widgets are super strong. It's a good alternative to the Magento page builder, where you give a lot of control to a merchant to decide what the content looks like in the front end. As an agency, you won't always like the results of that because it doesn't really look like the thing that the designer or the design style guide of your company. If you use widgets instead, that means that all of the design is embedded into the HTML files that are linked to this. So anything that's generated in front end generally looks well because it complies with the theming files that you wrote. We have a bunch of different widgets that are included right now. You're gonna have to shout up. Maya's completely distracted. Maya, I'm gonna give you a shout out in a second. You're not even listening. Bamir is the main contributor. No biggie. No, but Bamir worked very hard on implementing these widgets, and we're super grateful. They're currently our only USA partner, and they put a lot of work into these different widgets that all of our customers can now use once they have a license and use Hyva. We're working on improving those and extending them, but yeah, that's one of the great tools that you can offer as an agency or as your in-house developers. They can extend those. Towels.dk is a great example. They built a whole homepage just with widgets, and they have all of these nice slide-in effects with fades and animations, all out of the box built with these widgets. We have open documentation. It's a great place to learn about how we do stuff. It's very extensive. We get a lot of compliments on the quality. Vinay writes all of our documentation, so you know it's good. And we strongly believe that reliability is one of the most important things, that you should have the feeling that you can trust that in a month's time your shop doesn't break if you need to update. So we try not to reinvent and make really big backward incompatible changes. There's a balance between staying innovative and introducing new features, but at the same time also not breaking stuff. So backward compatibility is something that holds us back in innovation because we really believe that you shouldn't have a breaking store when you update. But at the same time, we're also moving forward and building new great stuff. So reliability, we think, is more important than just introducing new features. But yeah, we're moving we're still innovating and adding new features and new stuff on top of it. One example of how that looks in practice, our previous card was built in GraphQL. Seemed a great idea when I first built the team, because it's so diverse and it's easy to extend. But then it turned out that our target audience of developers, they haven't worked with GraphQL that much yet because they didn't choose the path of PWA. So for them, it's an extra barrier to learn how to extend GraphQL. And also Alpine.js in the end became so complex to build in all of the different scenarios of the card for different product options. And it was something extra we needed to add, and it became spaghetti code. So we didn't like it at that point. And it wasn't extendable to the degree that we wanted to have third-party extensions extend on this out of the box. So I wouldn't call it a mistake, but it was a very valuable learning. We felt that we needed a new version of the card that was built with PHP instead of with GraphQL, which loads much faster on the initial page load and is more extensible. But then we felt the pain, like we don't want all of those stores that are already live to have the breaking experience. So we first built a backward compatible extension that moved the current card into an extra extension that you could add on once you upgrade it. So you would get the upgrade with the new PHP card, but you could still make use of the old card without anything breaking, and we keep supporting that. So if you already had your store with the GraphQL card, it still works. Yeah, another aspect of stability, in other ecosystems, libraries change every week. If you implemented Redux, you needed to refactor it to hooks, and then you needed to refactor it to the next thing, and now you need SSR, and now you need to hydrate, and now you need islands, and now I can keep going on, and if I talk long enough, something new has been invented while I'm talking on this stage. So JS frameworks move incredibly fast, and that's, as an agency, it's really hard to stay up to date, and you build something, you launch it, and it's outdated. And for the next project, you again need to learn a new system, because now you have a remix that needs to be used, or whatever framework. So your developers, they might love learning new stuff all of the time, and maybe you want to have an R&D department that does that all of the time. But at the same time, you also just want to deliver. And once you learn something, leverage that experience and deliver quick on your next project, instead of spending another whole part of the budget on learning new technologies on each and every project. So yeah, we try to be more stable and be a bit more, we slow our pace in introducing new libraries. I mean, we have only one library. Which is the next topic. Alpine v3 has been out for over a year, and we haven't upgraded yet because we felt if we do that now, then what does that look like for existing customers? They need to refactor their team and rewrite a lot of stuff, and they have this breaking experience, and we really hate that. I hate it. Vinay doesn't accept it. So Vinay is the guy that spent hundreds of hours writing an upgrade script that runs out of the box. It's a single line command, and you run it on your team and any extension that you've written, and it just rewrites all of the syntaxes that has been changed with Alpine from version 2 to version 3. Hopefully, for next updates, Alpine wouldn't have breaking changes, because the changes in this release were senseless, just renaming syntaxes just because he could, which is a dumb thing. But we're close to releasing the updated version of the team with Alpine v3 out of the box, and any existing project could just update with a single line command, which is on the bottom of the screen here. It says Hyva 1.2 to 2.3. You run it in the console and it upgrades your code, and as far as we've tested, it works out of the box. If there are edge cases, we'll build those in as well. We're about to release this. It was planned for last week, but it didn't feel like a good decision to do that just right before this event. So probably next week. Yeah, and the proof is in the pudding. Peter Jaap might be familiar to you. He built the first publicly available stores with Hyva, and 1.5 years later, he kept up to date and it never broke, which is a testament to backward compatibility, which we spend a lot of time on. How are we time-wise? Okay. So the community aspect, from the beginning, we've tried to really build a new community where we leverage each other's strengths, so we help each other, we incentivize partners to collaborate, give support on Slack, contribute code. So we try to incentivize that, and we have a very strict positive-only Slack guideline. If I see anyone writing negative stuff about other developers, extension developers, whatever, I call them out and ask them, okay, so you can be more nuanced. You can bring this in a more constructive way, be more positive, and ask them to redact that. So we really try to nurture the positivity in the ecosystem as well. There's over 2,000 people in the Slack right now, so it's a nice community. I think many agencies don't even have half of their developers on the Slack, so the amount of developers is probably even a lot higher. And with that community, we made a whole bunch of extensions compatible with Hyva, which we could then use to show extension developers that they should invest in Hyva and also start making stuff compatible. We had our first in-person event last year, beginning of this year, our own Hyva camp in Germany. We only had 80 tickets, was sold out within a day. But it was fantastic. People came out throughout maybe 10 different countries. They traveled all the way from Poland. 8 people came from Poland all the way to Germany just for this event. So that was fantastic. And the growth that we have attracts the ecosystem. A lot of people were skeptic. It was funny to hear, like, yeah, so give me some insights. There's a lot of positivity, but surely there must be things that you run into that are not as smooth, and the people are just waiting out for the negative reviews to come in. And they waited and waited and it didn't happen. 1.5 years later, We see an incredible growth rate, I think. We're very close to 1,000 live stores. This is BuildWith. They use public data to aggregate. So here's a lot of duplicates of stores that have multiple store views, and they don't pick up all of the stores that are live, but we have our own data which shows we're close to 1,000. It's up to you to compare this to other front-end platforms. We do well. And we only released 1.5 years ago, last year, February. So yeah, that shows that you can get a lot done within 2 years. We have 21 releases so far, over 350 agencies working with it right now in over 48 countries, over 600 sites live, uniquely confirmed. There's some extra numbers there in SaaS offering that we have, but I didn't count them in this number. And plenty currently being built. So back to the ecosystem, we went with this at the point that we passed other platforms in live stores in BuildWith. We contacted the extension vendors. We said, okay, so listen, we're bigger than them. We're doing well. It's easier to make an extension compatible with our system because you only need to replace this little bit of front-end code instead of just getting a GraphQL endpoint and needed to build everything from scratch. So becoming compatible with Hyva is a lower investment, and we have a growing market, and your customers are already using your extensions because we made 190 compatible. So soon after, most of the extension vendors followed. I must admit, once Amnesty was on board, even the ones that weren't on board yet at that point followed within a month. And we try to empower our partners. If we raise the water level, all of the boats rise. I saw that. I think it came out of a big commerce partners summit. I saw the quote on Twitter and thought that resonates with how we also approach things. If we help our partners, they help us to grow, and we try not to compete with them. So with extension vendors, we wrote documentation for them how to make the extensions compatible. We recorded videos on YouTube where they can learn. We did trainings with them, and we start collaborations with them instead of competing with their products. So one example is a checkout that we're building. Once that started to take form, we felt we're competing with one really big player in the market, which is already our partner, One Step Checkout. So it felt wrong to release a competing product. So we contacted them. We said, well, we would like to work together with you because the alternative is to compete with you. Tell me what you prefer. So we're working together. So we're building it together. The checkout has a lot of the great experience that One Step Checkout offers. So you have all this admin configuration to change your order of input fields and to toggle on guest orders and all kind of different settings. But on top of that, we offer a much better developer experience. It's all PHP based. We use XML, like layout XML is being used, so you can define the steps in the layout with XML, but not this kind of layout XML, but just this kind of layout XML. So it's enjoyable, and you can just really compose how your checkout should look. And we will ship it out of the box with a one-step checkout, multiple-step checkout, and it's super easy to add your own steps and components. You're going to hear a lot more about this. We're very close to a beta release. It was planned for this week, but we hit some roadblocks. So I would expect this between 1 and 2 weeks to be launched as a beta for those that will subscribe. Existing customers, hit me up on Slack. Tell me you want to join on the beta, and you can join it once we release it. So we're doing that together with One Step Checkout. It's a great collaboration because they're the absolute authority on checkouts for Magento. They have so much knowledge, also from a merchant perspective. So when we showed them the first version, they were immediately like, but you should think of this. And they will want to have this configuration. So we already got past the first and second and third iteration just by implementing their feedback. I need to increase the pace. Finally, learning Hyva should be quite familiar for existing Magento developers. If you have JavaScript developers, if they know React, if they know Vue, then it might make sense to do PWA. If you have PHP developers that have a hard time learning JavaScript and building whole websites with JavaScript, it would be a lot easier for them to learn Hyva because 80% of the techniques are still the same. It's just this little bit on the front end that we added, which is fast to learn. So training costs are low. There's a lower level of frustration overall because you're not working against a framework. There's not that much framework to work against you, so that makes it simpler. You're able to just build things and enjoy your work, and that's not just me talking. That's the feedback that I get from people telling me, well, I'm preventing my developers from leaving the company because they enjoy working on Magento stuff again. So if you do it well, you can also get the satisfaction of green circles and Lighthouse out of the box. We ship with a 100 score. You can mess it up all the way down to 0 if you want. It's really not hard. It would take me 5 minutes. But if you implement it well, you can stay in green circles, 90 plus. We even see live stores that overall score higher than 95 in Lighthouse. So that's something we also focus very heavily on. But we're trying to move away from just only the performance, because there's so much more, the dev experience, the increased developer velocity. It takes, on average, 30 to 50% less time to build front ends with Hyva, what we hear from agencies. So that's money saved out of the pocket of the merchant. One testimonial from Aaron Moss from the UK. We have this celebration channel on our Slack, which showcases where people announce when they launch a new project. This is one of them. He's super enthusiastic, and so was the merchant. It's only 99 here, but as he writes, at some point it was 100, and then you get confetti. The first time you ever see confetti in Lighthouse is a very fun experience. So yeah, merchant and dev team are buzzing, which is the best testament that we can get. Visit our sponsor booth. We have some nice stuff there, especially if you're an existing customer. Talk to us. If you want to have a demo of the MageWire checkout, it wasn't working yesterday evening. It was this morning, which is the reason we haven't launched the beta yet, but probably it will work if you visit us after this talk. It will definitely work when we release the beta. So that's what we're waiting for. Thank you.